was assaulted sexually. I felt unattended to mentally and emotionally because mommy wasn't around, daddy was totally absent. Initially, I didn't tell anyone about it. There was nobody to talk to. You can't talk to mama. You can't talk to papa about such a thing. Papa was a priest. We were all being brought up in a Christian home. I knew something was wrong. I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't understand how bad it was. Yes. And I also knew that I cannot talk to any... See, if you go to school and they beat you up in school, there's nobody to come home and report to. Mommy and I were not even close because she was not around. Mama was strict. Mama is a disciplinarian. The right things, the right things, the right things. So you don't want to tell Mama the wrong thing. Mama is the kind of person that when you break a plate, you carry the broken plate and go and meet her with your cane. So is that the person you want to go and tell that this kind of a thing is happening? No, you can't. So I couldn't tell anybody. The person who hurt me as a child, I thought I had let go. I thought I had moved on. I wasn't really healed. I didn't know the depth of what was happening to me until I entered JS1. And they had this sex education and they made it look like if you were not a virgin, you were dirty. And it broke me. Something died in me that day. I was fighting, I was angry, I was strong, I was mean, zero emotions. Low self-esteem was eating me up so badly. I didn't know how to make friends. I couldn't mix up in class. I was the weird one in class. I tried to make friends, but I was not normal. If I want to be friends with somebody, I have to write a letter and say, can you be my friend? They would laugh at me. And other people were flowing. I'm scared. I don't want to be hurt. There was this deep void in my heart. I couldn't really let go. I just wanted to be happy. Childhood trauma never really leaves you.
The story we are about to listen to today, how serious is it to you?
It's very serious because this will be the first time I'm sitting down with someone other than my husband to talk about. And this year is the first time I'm discussing this with my husband.
Wow.
Yes, and November will make it 10 years of our marriage. But I've never really sat down to talk to him about it. And that's because it's something that I would say I made up my mind at some point in my life that I was never going to talk about it. I just dusted it aside and kept it somewhere that, you know when you deal with something and you just keep it aside and say, no, I'm not going to talk about this ever again. Not with anybody. I'm not going to go through it or live through it or make the person feel too important. I wanted to live my life, serve God. But you see, the thing about life is that these things never really go away.
Yeah.
They just come back at some point. And if not for your sermon on childhood hurts and trauma,
yes,
nobody would have been able to get me to the point where I'll talk about it.
The first time I saw you was when you were sharing your testimony.
Yes.
That you've never gotten to this point before.
Never.
Where you had to. Can you walk us through that?
Okay, I joined SLC in May, the May at Sotele. And it was a regular service, it was the praise and worship. And we were happy. My husband said, the church is good. I was tired of our former church because of certain things. So I wanted something new, something different. And I was basically getting the same thing. And I used to go to a church where I was attending a sort of a small church. And I was close to the pastor. The pastor was like would I call him my first father figure? So when I got married and moved to Abuja, the church we were going to is a big church. So I didn't have that connection with any of the pastors per se. So I would always sit at the back. Then eventually a branch was opened in our area and we moved to that branch. And it started getting boring, same thing every day. So my husband and I started taking turns to go to church. It was a case of Saturday, after they go church. Say, I think you'll be the one to go, so that these kids, especially for our kids, to always go to church. Yes.
Wow.
It got that boring. And at a point, my husband just stopped going to church. And I saw us not being close to God as, you know, I wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm a church girl. No matter what happens to me, I'm a church girl. I grew up in Anglican church. My grandfather was an archdeacon in Anglican church. Yeah, so I grew up in church. After secondary school, I moved to Ibadan with my mom. And so, but for these 10 years, I would say I haven't really found it. So I just woke up one morning. In fact, I was in a church that day. And I told my girl that, where is the guy that you said was going to Apostle Femi Lazarus church? In church. And she said, okay, I'll send the guy's number. She sent it. I started chatting him up. And the following Sunday, I told my husband, I said, I'm not going to go church again. I'm going to this church. Funny enough, my husband said, oh yeah, no bath. Let's go and see. And it was good. So the following Tuesday, after Asotele,
yes,
you started with Jacob, Reuben, how Jacob wasn't such a fantastic father.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, sir, you told me my life.
Wow.
You told me why I behave the way I behave. You told me why I think the way I think, why I respond to life situations the way I do.
Yeah.
And it broke me. After that day, I sat down. I was thinking, I called my husband. I said, come and sit down. See what this apostle is saying. He said this about Levite. He said this about this person. He said this about Reuben, about how Jacob was not such a good father, and how this person... To the point, in fact, you made a statement that went viral. You said, girls who do not have a father figure tend to be loose.
Yes.
And people were dragging you.
Yes.
It takes the grace of God, like you said.
Yes.
To not be loose.
It takes grace.
Yes. It takes the grace of God. If not for my pastor in Ibadan, Pastor Kayode, he took me in. I was just finishing secondary school. For some reason, I don't know whether he had a conversation with my mom, but he just took me in. I was church baby. I was pastor's baby. I could walk into his office anytime.
Yeah.
If he doesn't see me after service, he would send somebody to look for me. Pastor was a father to me, the first father figure after my grandfather. But you see, the thing with Papa was that he was already old.
Yeah.
And I was younger. I was just one, just two. By SS1, SS2, Papa had gotten sick. And he died when I was in SS3.
Wow.
It was a big loss for me. And it left a vacuum. Because Papa would be the only one that would come and sit beside my bed and tell me stories, listen to me, at least ask me, how are you? Then there was no GSM, for my mom to call, keep checking on me. So it's usually when she comes around that I get to see her. And every time she comes, she visits and she leaves, I sink emotionally. And in that period of me not talking to anybody at home, not eating for a day or two, not communicating, nobody really comes to say, how are you?
Including your dad and your mom?
My dad is...
a different story.
Is another story. But because, my mom had gone back to Ibadan. So I'm left with Mama, Papa, and all kinds of cousins.
Okay.
But the way we were brought up, you're on your own. It's an on your own kind of upbringing. So nobody really comes to ask. And I feel I heard gossips and they felt that I was being dramatic. I was just looking for attention. So it will always take me 2 days, 1 day to come out of the fact that my mom came to visit. We spent some time and she left. So when Papa would be the one that once in a while would just come and check up on me and say, how are you? Are you fine? I say, I'm fine. So after Papa died, it was a big blow on me. But luckily we moved to Ibadan. My mom has gone through a lot of church hurt, so she wasn't going to church. For over 2 years, my mom did step her feet into a church.
Wow.
But her kids are here, so she has to look for a church. And one man came. I said, "Is this man?" He just opened. "Let's try. Take your keys. The man is sound. He's this, he's that." And so we went with my mom to church. And that was how we started going to that church.
That's how you got the pastor?
Yes. He took interest in us. He took interest in me.
Is that the story?
Of
The pastor, or we're going to come back to
yes,
family now?
we'll come to family.
Okay.
So because of, I'm trying to get to the point where I knew that SLC was the place.
Yeah.
So after the Tuesday, I sat my husband down and I said, this is it. This is what this man has said. He has explained me to me. So by Sunday, I was already ready to hear more, you know.
Wow.
And so when you started, before you got to the middle of your sermon, I was crying.
Wow.
I was the first person that came out. When you now had to say, leave them, let them, this is the church.
I remember.
Yes, I came out. And there were two people that I needed to forgive. One was the person who hurt me as a child. And two was my husband. The person who hurt me as a child, I thought I had let go. I thought I had moved on. I thought, because we talk once in a while, his family, we all grew up together.
Yeah.
But when the sermon came, I realized that I wasn't really healed. And it made me go back. I don't go back to my past. I don't go back to my past because I didn't know the consequence, or I didn't know the depth of what was happening to me until I entered JS1. And they had this sex education, and they made it look like if you were not a virgin, you were dirty. And it broke me. Something died in me that day. I couldn't have friends. I couldn't mix. Oh my God. I couldn't mix up in class. I was the weird one in class. Everyone who went to secondary school with me knows that between JS1 and JS3, I was weird. I was fighting. I was angry. I didn't know how to make friends. I would trek home because my secondary school, I went to a federal government school and it was in my village. So I used to trek to school and back. Usually when secondary school students or kids are going home, they go home in group.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. Low self-esteem was eating me up so badly. I was angry. Some days I would just wake up and I would cry. And nobody will ask. It was normal for me to always break down and cry. So nobody really paid attention to it. I will cry. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I knew something was wrong with me. And when that sermon came, I went back to those days when I felt alone. I felt misunderstood, unattended to. I don't blame my family. I don't blame Mama and Papa, because I feel it is what you know that you can give.
That you can give,
yes.
Yeah.
So they probably didn't know how to handle me.
The case.
Yeah, they didn't know how to handle me. They didn't understand. Or maybe they did. They just didn't know what to do. And so that sermon broke me. But before then, 5 to 10 minutes into the sermon, my husband looked at me and said, "Pastor is preaching like Elebio." That's that Pastor Kayode.
Amazing.
I said, "I was just going to tell you the same thing."
Wow.
So that day, it was it. I was home. Mentally, I was home.
Wow.
Spiritually, I was home. Emotionally, really, I was home. Because you teach, I wouldn't say exactly. And he told me that both of you know. My husband was arguing with me. He said, 2 of you must know each other. I said, They don't know each other.
I'm hearing his name for the first time.
I told him. He said, "Hey, are you sure?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Preaches exactly like Pastor Kayode Elebio." And so I knew That was how I got to the point where I addressed it. And my husband, till today, does not understand what I'm going through. He's from father, mother, sisters, brother. He's the only son. He's from a good home. In fact, his family is the first time I saw family. Everybody is loving each other. I see siblings fight. You know, when people come together, where we were staying before we moved, I stayed adjacent my in-laws' house. And these in-laws, they are about 6 girls, and they are close. They don't... Everybody's helping everybody do things. Like, there's no... This is your job, so nobody's going to help you. Whether you are sick, whether you're not fine. I'm asthmatic. Whether you're having asthma crisis, when you're done with the crisis, you go back and do your duty. That's how I was raised. So it was weird. I see people love each other. So, well, okay, nice. And then my in-laws too, they are close. They even have a family WhatsApp group.
Do you have one?
No. We tried, but
it didn't work.
It just didn't work. It didn't work. But I think age is helping us. Time is helping us as well, growing up, you know. Mama is getting older. She's about 91 now.
Mama is grandma.
Grandma, yes, my grandma.
Okay. So if I may ask a question. The thought of knowing you will get married as a single lady, and should I use the word the dysfunctionality of where you are coming from? And were there times you met individuals that were coming from better family structure and you felt, oh no, once they know my story, they won't accept me? Run me through that. Okay,
with like suitors?
Yes. Or individuals you were attracted to, but just for the scare of, the family background, where you are coming from.
Okay, so because of my personality and life experiences, I didn't used to get too emotionally attached to people. Especially with the opposite sex. I could hang out with you, we go out, sit down, eat, chat, play, but I don't get to the point where I'm emotionally attached to you. The first person I was emotionally attached to when I was in 100 level. And that was because he was the only friend I could...
Open up.
No, I don't talk about this. Never. With anybody.
We are discussing it today.
Because you broke me.
God did.
Yes, God did. I don't talk about it. I try to blend in with everybody. I try to... not want to feel sidelined or I don't want to talk about it. And so with the opposite sex, it was just, I would use the word cruise. I just not there. Until I met my husband in my final year. And I was drawn to Alex because, his name is Alex. I was drawn to Alex because he was kind, loving, soft, everything I have ever looked for. Everything I have prayed to God for. Alex was kind. Still kind.
Yeah.
Because I was still having that barrier, wouldn't say I really loved him. But I was ready to marry him because he was good. Initially, I wasn't safe. It was my mom. This guy is a good man. Recruited the entire family to call me. This guy wants to marry you. Marry him. I was about 23, 24. So I was like, I beg. But when the pressure was much, I was like, okay, fine. Let's marry. But I was still comfortable with marrying him because he's a kind person.
Yeah.
He was gentle. The first person that would buy me gifts. First person that would check up on. He would check up on me to the point where I'm like, Oga, don't call me. Just shift. When people get too close to me, I don't know. For the 5-6 years I spent in the university, I had maybe 3-4 friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
The entire time.
The entire time. We were friends they were just my friends from beginning to end. I vibe, I gist, I talk, I play, I'm noisy sometimes. but it just ends there.
Nobody gets into it.
No. I don't let someone get into me because I'm scared. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be hurt. So when the suitors were coming, there was always a fault. One is that his shoe is not looking good, or his shirt is not fine, or his car is not tidy. I always had one, reason not to
break it up.
Yeah, but somehow my husband was persistent. He was just persistent. Then friends came and said he didn't have money, he's broke, you roll with big boys, you have friends, because the stores that were coming to were big boys and, flashy cars and everything. But I knew what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for money. I wasn't looking for class or wealth. And it's not because I don't have ambition. I just wanted to be happy. There was this deep void in my heart. I just wanted to be happy. It didn't matter whether he had money, whether he didn't have money. It didn't matter whether he was a fine boy or not fine. I just wanted
to be happy.
I just wanted one person to love me. One man. I couldn't get that in my father. Papa didn't live long enough. I just wanted one man to love me. And at that time, he was loving. He's still loving. So that was how I got to the point where, I got married to him. And like I said earlier on, that day, the two people I had in mind for forgiveness was my husband and the person that hurt me as a child. And the reason I mentioned my husband is, I feel like he didn't understand well enough. And so he started falling short in certain areas. And he comes from a very good home. So he doesn't understand all of these things I'm talking about. All this, your father, your mom, your father was not there. So, I mean, why are you dealing with rejection? I love you. You can see that I love you. So what's the problem? And so he started falling short in certain areas and I couldn't just forgive.
Wow.
I couldn't really let go. The last couple of months too, it's been an emotional roller coaster. And I think the reason was because we were not close to God. And so a lot of things started going wrong. It got really bad. I had to confide in Pastor Mimi. And she helped me. She spoke to us. So when people deal with rejection, it's different for me. There's a way somebody will come and tell you, I don't like you. And you're like, now you sabi. Then somebody will now tell me, I don't like you. Kai. Another rejection. So because I don't want to go through that rejection, I don't let people in.
To your heart.
We can gist from today till tomorrow, but I don't get him. When I see a young man that I know that I'm going to like this guy, I cut off. Yes. I see you, maybe the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you're close to God or something, and something just tells me, you feel for this guy. I cut off.
Immediately.
I just cold turkey. Like you call me, I don't pick up.
Okay, please go on.
Okay, the moment I just realized I cut off because I don't want to like anybody and then they will now leave me. I don't want rejection. And so each time maybe I'm having disagreement with my husband, I get so emotional. I get so pained. I get so deep because it's like, don't reject me. Don't leave me. I hope eventually he comes to understand it, but it's too much for me to bear when it comes to that aspect. Yes, let's shout, let's argue, husband and wife argument or disagree on things. But don't walk out on me. Don't leave the house. Don't scold me. Don't make me feel like I'm not good enough. And so our marital issues were, for me, more emotional than arguments. So over time, I grew a thick skin and I literally just shielded myself from my husband. He felt I was no longer giving him attention. We're fine. We don't fight. I made sure we don't even fight, because if I see you want this thing is going to go, I just drop it. I faced my job and the kids, and we just go out, come home, go out, come home every day, and everything looked fine. But I feel psychologically I began to fall short of being a good wife to him, and he started telling on the marriage. But because I didn't feel that he would ever understand me, I never really spoke to him about it. I never really explained it to him. And so this is where childhood trauma never really leaves you. It just comes back it just creeps in at some point. Because I told myself that I'm not going to talk about this. I'm never going to deal with this. I'm never going to, I just kept it.
So what really traumatized you growing up?
Two things.
Yes.
I was assaulted sexually. And I felt I needed more love. I felt unattended to mentally and emotionally. Because mommy wasn't around, daddy was totally absent.
Was never involved.
Okay. My father married my mom, and I don't think their marriage lasted 2 years or 3 years, maybe. He just picked up his things and said he was traveling, and he never came back.
Wow.
And my mom was very young. I was already asthmatic as a baby, or as a child, very tiny baby. So it was too much for her to deal with, because my father had already stripped her of her certificates, had not done work. She was lost, and she was young. So the best thing she could do was to bring me back to bring me to her own parents, which are my grandparents, and at least find herself again.
Were you the only one?
I have a brother.
Elder or younger?
Younger brother.
Okay.
So we're back in the village. And that's how my father just went off, like switched off.
Like completely?
Just completely. My mom didn't. In fact, my mom didn't know whether he was dead or alive or missing or up for almost a year. Meanwhile, he was communicating with his siblings, and they were living in the same house with my mom.
Really?
Yes. It took a long time before my mom found out that, oh, he's fine. And so she moved out of his house, took me back. It was, according to the story she told me, it was really hard for her. And I understand that. The next time my father would come looking for me was when I was in SS2. I was about 15 years old. And he came, sat down for like 30 minutes and said he's sorry. He needed to go and look for money.
That was the first time you were meeting him?
Yes. As I sit here, I can't remember my father's face. Yes. If I pass here, my father pass, he doesn't know me. He's late now. So after that, I didn't see him again till I was in 300 level. At that time, when he came, prior to when he came, he sent his siblings to bring money for me, bring me a phone, called me on the phone from time to time. That was how we tried before. I think he now came back to Nigeria to now come, I had to leave school from Umuahia and came to Ibadan because my mom too was trying. So that, let this thing not, just try and be in this girl's life. Try and pay bills. So you will pay for one bill this year, maybe another 3-4 years. You now remember that somebody is existing like me. You now send money. And you now cut off again. After like 4-5 years or 3-4 years, you send money again. It was off and on. So by the time we were in 2011, he came back, called me to come to his village. He was staying in his village. And I went there. In fact, that day I called my mother. I said, Mommy, waiting you, they fine. We joked about it, but he's so rigid. Not nice. Everybody's afraid of him in the community and the area. And he was very rich. My father used to be a very wealthy man. But you will not see it. You will not see it in me. You will not see it in him per se, you know. He was so tight with life. He was just, you know, holding on to it. And that day, in fact, I couldn't stay a week. I stayed like 2 days. I just told, I said, Mommy, I beg, I'm coming back. Early in the morning.
Are you Igbo?
Yes, I'm Igbo.
Yeah.
I'm Igbo. I grew up in the East.
But you speak Yoruba?
I understand. When I speak, you will know that I'm not a Yoruba person. You know I'm not a Yoruba person. I said, Mommy, I'm coming back. And we laughed and laughed. You wake up in the morning, he's out. Till in the night. No communication. No trying to know you.
To build relationships.
Nah, he didn't have time for that.
He had other kids?
Yes, he did. I met them for the first time last year. After his family had tried for us not to meet.
They stay outside the country?
No, the kids.
Yes.
They were in Owerri, but we never met. And even after he died, after the burial, I didn't go for the burial. After the burial, they still didn't want to release my contact to them. And I didn't have... So it was when there was a little fiasco amongst themselves that they now sent the eldest boy's number to my mom and she forwarded it. In fact, they regretted why they sent that number to me. They regretted. So,
there was a fight?
The boy tried to take his siblings and run out of the house or something, I don't know. So they ran to Abuja and I reached out to them and I went to see them where they were staying, and that was how we met. After, this is me, the older boy is in his 20s. So it's not like, I don't know why he didn't want us to meet. The man, for some reason, didn't like my mom and he just transferred
the hatred.
Yes, he just transferred it on me. And because people were talking to him, so he just kept on trying to build that relationship, but it wasn't just working. It didn't work out for us.
It was late.
It was late. And his personality was rigid. So it didn't work out.
At what point did the assault happen?
I was small. I was young. I was probably in maybe primary school.
So by the time he tried to come back, you had already gone through a phase where you had survived sexual assault.
Who? My father?
Yes.
Yes. We didn't have a relationship.
Wow.
We didn't have a relationship. Even when I wanted to get married, he was raining curses and abuses. I should come back to his place and stay with him. I should leave my mom. You know, he will always insult my mom, call my mom names and say I'm not well trained, I'm not well brought up. So, and that thing used to always upset me. If it's raining abuses on me, I'm giving it back to him. We didn't have a good relationship. Except 2011, when I tried, I went to see him. I said, okay, let's try this thing and see if it will work. But it didn't really work. After that 2011, he paid my school fees 2012 and 2013. And then once in a while, he would send me pocket money. But that relationship was not just there. Immediately I broke the news that I wanted to get married.
Changed it.
He never picked my call again.
Really?
He never.
What year did he die?
I think 2-3 years ago. 2-3 years ago.
If I may ask, maybe for the sake of individuals who have gone through sexual assault and some who are still fighting with the stigma, you know, I'd like to ask specific questions. There are instances where, you know, the narrative, like you said the other time, that sometimes the narrative puts the assaulted insensitively in a position where people tend to say that you've lost your virginity, then you are... I remember listening to T.Y. Bello share a story. She said she felt like a bag of sand. She felt other girls were princesses and she was just there.
Yes.
She said she felt like a monster, that for anyone to want to harm her, it must be that something was wrong with her. Can you run us through? And first question will be that the fellow that did that, family member?
Yes.
A trusted family member?
We all stayed.
Everyone trusted him?
Everybody just stayed in the house.
So then the second question would be, what was it like for you and how did you come out of it?
initially, I didn't tell anyone about it.
Ah.
There was nobody to talk to.
No one to talk to.
You can't talk to Mama. You can't talk to Papa about such a thing.
Ah.
Papa was a priest. We're all being brought up in a Christian home.
Yeah.
You know your morals, you know the right thing and the wrong thing. I knew something was wrong. I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't understand how bad it was. Yes. And I also knew that I cannot talk to any... See, if you go to school and they beat you up in school, there's nobody to come home and report to.
So it was like a life where you had people, but you were alone.
Yes, exactly. There was always people in the house. Sometimes cousins will come, we'll be up to 10. You know, different cousins, different people, aunties, cousins, brothers, whatever. We were always in the house. But everybody just wakes up in the morning, go to school, or you go to the farm, or you go to the stream. We cook, you run errands. Then in the evening, sometimes you just go out to play alone most times. But being asthmatic, I was a bit... what's the word? Like, they didn't allow me do certain things too much. The strenuous things.
To avoid the triggers.
Yes. And so the cousins then would feel that Mama and Papa were shielding me. And so they would gossip about me being lazy or being, I don't know, not strong. And, you know, when I carry a smaller gallon than other village people, it's like, she's not strong. This one, village, they just make jest of it. So I used to just hear trickles of those gossips. And it would make me still withdraw even more. So that thing about not having anyone to talk to, I really didn't have anybody. There was no phone to call Mommy.
Yeah.
Mommy and I were not even close because she was not around.
Wow.
So I didn't come to the point where I could trust someone enough to talk to the person. Mama was strict. Mama is this, disciplinarian. The right things, the right things, the right things. So you don't want to tell Mama the wrong thing. Mama is the kind of person that when you break a plate, you carry the broken plate and go and meet her with your cane. And say, Mama, I've broken plate. And so, where is your cane? And they will flog you. So that next time you will not break another. So is that the person you want to go and tell that this kind of a thing is happening? No, you can't. So I couldn't tell anybody. I feel mostly because I didn't even understand the level of, or the gravity of what was going on. And the part of me feels that the guy in question too was also a product of a dysfunction. Because why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you? So, as I grew up, I just let him go in my mind, sort of. I thought I let him go. So, I couldn't tell anyone, one. I got to understand what was wrong in secondary school when that sex education came. And the way that man presented it, hey, Jesus. So when girls are talking about their virginity, talking about stuff like that, you cannot hear me say, Bim, I just keep quiet. Listen, when my ear is full, I shift. I didn't tell anybody. I told no one. The only time I tried to bring it up was when my mom and my aunts were trying to accuse me of being too close to one very distant cousin, a guy.
Yeah.
And this guy was a friend. We had family, very distant, but we were good friends. We were close. In fact, I think he's the first close friend from an opposite sex. And so we were just really close. There was nothing fishy. When he came around that, I think it was a Christmas time, we all went back to the village. And my auntie started scolding me. She's a very strict person. Can't you see your husband is here? Why are you talking to him? Auntie, I've not seen this guy in a long time. We've not called each other. I said, you people were in this house when so and so thing was happening in the house. None of you knew. Nobody knew. And it's now this one that was trying to be friends with me. As much as, I don't know what can be I don't know the littlest thing that should be immoral between a boy and a girl. Did not happen between me and this guy. So why would you think that the one that people are supposed to worry, for that day I blasted. I just screamed it out. Why would you people think this kind of a thing? Later on, my auntie now said, don't you think, who have I told? I should not tell anybody about it. Don't you think you need, what do they call it, a shrink?
Why is it a custom in most African homes to shield the offender?
Till today, I don't think anybody really talked. Till today, nobody has asked me, how am I?
And they just moved on.
Life just moved on. Everything nothing happened. Nothing.
Why is it a custom in this part of the world?
Well, I don't know.
That when that happens, they shame the victim and, kind of cover for the offender.
They just cover the offense so that it doesn't
because the stigma around sexual violence, that's the word I'm going to use now, is too much for one person to bear.
I'll just thank God for one thing. I was young. And the shock I got when I found out the effect or the damage that had been done to me, the shock I got made me I don't want to remember those nights. I don't want to remember. The night I remember was the last time he came. Oh God. If I was big, I would have beaten devil out of his head. I won't. No, don't you ever. And I remember in those days, he started writing letters to me. The guy was dysfunctional in his own way. He started writing letters to me.
He was much older than you.
Not that much, maybe 4, 5, 6 years, I don't know. That's why I growing up, being more mature now, I think he too had his own issues that would make him think it was okay.
Well, maybe just for the sake of those watching, I'd just like to state for the balance that as a man, coming from a dysfunctional background is not enough excuse to take advantage of a woman.
It's not really, but...
it is not. There are many ways to deal with pain. But I will just say something that, I teach so much in this regard, and for a while I stopped. Not because I was done. I'm not done. But because if there's any part to teach in this, it's now too graphical, and sometimes I want to give people breathing space. You see, when a man is from a dysfunctional background, particularly when you have absence of either of the parents in his life, where the emotions are not well built in a good environment, one of the likelihood that the man has is he does not know how to love correctly or how to express love beyond physical touch. That's one of the signs that a man is broken, And we have many people in the society who are broken and who just think that it is, I don't want to use the word westernization, that, don't know how to express love to a woman until she's touched. So I mean, saying the guy came from a dysfunctional background, I can really understand that. I teach.
That's just what I feel.
Yeah.
Because I can't find a valid reason why
he would want to do that.
I mean, I was young. I was little.
The stigma, you carried it for a long time.
I just made up my mind that nobody was going to know this part of me. My friends don't know. Nobody knows. My friends.
You never told your husband that someone took advantage of you? Until after that sermon.
I now sat him down and said, this is it. In tears. Because my auntie made one statement. She said, try as much as possible not to let Alex know about this. Because nobody wanted to talk about it. And as I sit here today, even my mom has not asked me, are you fine? That stuff that you mentioned, how far? There was a time that the guy was supposed to come and do NYSC. And it was supposed to be in my mom's house in Ibadan. And my mom called me. I said, Mommy, no. Mommy, no. She didn't know why. Until the day I told her. She now said, oh, was that the reason why you went? I said, Mommy, I didn't know how to live in the same house with him. Living Umuahia was freedom from not seeing him. Going into boarding school in SS1 was freedom, kind of. And that made me who I am today. Jovial, you know,
from the way
friendly.
you sound, it sounds like both of you were living under the same roof.
Yes.
We
all, when I say we grew up together, we grew up together.
And nobody sensed.
Nobody sensed. Nobody is interested.
Ah.
You know when you look at your child and it's like, she's not smiling today.
Yeah.
And you go ask, what's wrong with you?
Why do you think they were not interested?
Papa and Mama were just that way. And so they raised all of us. That's why we are not really close. We are all trying to be close now in the last 4, maybe 5 years. But there's hardly any time we come together as a family that there's no fight. There's always one drama. Somebody, like that one I went last where I opened up a little and told them, you know, and that was out of anger. That was a fight. When I left with my husband, my aunt and my brother, they fought, you know. So I feel it's because my grandparents were not the type who knew how to bring together. I think so. Mama did not really know how to bring together.
Yeah.
She knew the right thing. As a girl, you're supposed to know how to cook, clean. You don't talk to your elders rudely. You don't do this wrong. You don't do that wrong. She was good. She raised us morally right. But when it came to emotional connection between siblings, she wasn't really interested. No, it wasn't her place of strength. In fact, at a point when we were growing up, we noticed that if Mama hears us sitting down gisting, she'll start sending everybody.
Why?
I don't know. That's just who she was. She is still like that.
Was there a part of you that concluded that maybe that happened because your dad and your mom were not together?
Yes, I feel if my parents were together, I would have seen love. I would have known what a family should look like. I began to see love when I got into boarding school. I now began to see that people can be friends. I began to see that somebody can actually help you fetch water. I began to see that people actually give out gifts.
Yeah.
I saw that people can actually sit down together and gist. And I was very aggressive and angry and alone. Like, I just keep to myself. If you step on me, I give you a dirty slap.
Wow.
I was the weird one in class. People should leave her. Don't touch her book. You understand? I tried to make friends, but I was not normal. So they would laugh at me. If I want to be friends with somebody, I have to write a letter and say, can you be my friend?
Wow.
And other people were flowing. And it was funny to them. So they would, this one is weird though. Which one is this one you are doing? And so
but you felt that if anyone loved you, then they were doing you a favor?
I didn't even see why anybody would love me.
Wow.
Yes, because I was always by myself. I was always alone. Until I got into boarding school. And I began to see life in a different view. I would see people be friends. I entered boarding school in SS1. And that was when I began to come out. So first term, I suffered because my secondary school, there was a lot of bullying. And you know, if you're not covered by your friends, they will pick on you. Yeah. So seniors will always pick on me. But the few people that picked on me did not want to pick on me again. Because you can be calling me, I'll be looking at you like this and I will not answer you.
Wow.
I will just pretend like you're not calling me. I was strong. I was mean. I was zero emotions. I had a male friend when I was in SS3. Some 2-3 years ago, the guy said, Jennifer, I never really understood who you were. She said he sees me as the kind of wife that if your husband is traveling, this is exactly the way he puts it. You buy condoms and put in your husband's bag because you don't care whether it's none of your business. That I was so mean that I used to be somebody to study. I was how can somebody be like this? He tried to do boyfriend, girlfriend, but I didn't understand what he was saying. I didn't understand what he meant by I love you. It didn't make sense to me. I couldn't relate. So immediately he said, I don't want you to talk to other guys. I just say, okay, I'm not interested in this. I just broke it off. He tried to beg, but it didn't make see, when I see people crying that somebody broke their heart, it doesn't make any sense to me. Wow. You don't, what are you people doing? What are you feeling?
Well, according to what I said in that sermon, and I understand that people got it wrongly. There was this podcast that was trending recently of a girl who said that she has slept with countless number of men that she cannot count anymore. And then she used the statement. She said, I'm a bastard, that my father was never there. And while I was making that teaching, I remember saying that, see, the father is the one who helps the girl child develop that healthy emotion and give her a sense of value and worth by bonding with the girl child. When that space is missing, there is the likelihood of something called being addicted to love, where the fellow begins to feel that anybody who loves me is doing me a favor. And so there comes also the fear. But there are two ways people react to that. One is that I cannot afford you coming into my life and leaving. So you better not even come in. And the second part is that, you know what? I'm just here. I'd like you to do me a favor by loving me. No, and these are two extremes entirely. And you went through yours.
Yeah, mine was don't come in. Don't even come. Don't come too close. I can gist with you, can hang out, but once is
get into that.
So back then I could have 10 guys asking me out, and I'm like, you want to be my boyfriend? Okay. You want to be my boyfriend? Okay. You want to be my nothing else. No. Then the ones that just wanted to sleep with you, of course.
Yeah.
So those ones, I feel like we understand that you don't want anything good for me. So the moment it comes to when are you coming to my place or when are you coming to spend the weekend, on your own. No. So I just didn't let people come too close. I don't know how to keep friends. My closest friend now is from 100 level or Jam Blessing.
You've been together.
And it's still on and off, but she tries.
Wow.
She tries. And in my darkest times, when I needed a friend, she came through. She's annoying. She's very rude.
Wow.
You know, these very rude and nasty people.
Wow.
You just have to understand them. But she's a kind person. And we've been friends. It goes on and off. But to say now that I'm this person that will have my bath, dress up and say I'm going to visit a friend. Nah. Don't come to my house. I'm not coming to your house. We are good. Thank God for WhatsApp.
Everyone's serious.
We are good on WhatsApp. It's recently that, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
I'm building self-esteem. Yes, that's the word. I'm building self-esteem. And now I feel free to talk to. Before you see me telling people about my life, just know that I'm going through something at that time. So I'm just telling you that phase.
Wow.
You understand?
That
phase, only. That one that we're having the issue now, and I just need somebody to talk to about it. And that's it. But I will now sit you down and we'll now begin to converse to the point that I'm not telling you about my... No. You're not rich. Nobody now. If I cannot do that with my mother, then know that
wow.
There was nobody. There was nobody to talk to that level.
Your dad?
My father.
Were you able to forgive him?
Was I angry with him?
His absence?
I don't know. I didn't feel emotionally connected to him.
Yeah.
I never even used to. We don't call him Daddy at home. We call him Kenneth. His name was Kenneth. So everybody just refers to him, Kenneth. You think the Kenneth is some random person, but that's my father we're talking about. So it's normal, Kenneth. I didn't have an emotional attachment to him. What I wished for, what I still wish for, I know it's not going to be possible, but my biggest wish in life is to have a father love. That thing, the way I see my husband love girls, I wish somebody loved me that way. I wish somebody at some point in time would come home and I will be happy.
Yeah.
You know, during my visiting days in secondaries, boarding school changed me. In fact, by the time I got to third term SS1 and SS2, my name was always on the list of noisemakers.
Wow.
From a coven covered to... And that's because I met a friend. I had one friend that cared. It was weird, but it was nice. You know, when you see love and it's weird, it's abnormal, it's like, wow, it's possible, wow. So people can be close. She will help me fetch water. She will come and check on me. I didn't know that people were nice. I didn't know that people, especially outsiders. I mean, if you can't get it at home, you're now getting it outside in school. So we were close. People called us, we were more like besties. Went to each other's houses during some holidays. At least Mama would let me go. I think Mama too liked that I was better. At least compared to when you were quiet. Yes. So she would always let me, go and visit her. She would always let her come with me for holidays. Her parents too were in support. At a point, her father had to come. She was very close to her dad. Oh wow. In fact, she was the first person where I saw my age mates being close to their dad. Wow. The only closeness I saw was between my father and my grandfather and my mom. Wow. But like I said, Papa died early. I wished Papa stayed a little longer when I was, more mature. Yes, and more aware of life. But he died. I was just entering SS3 when Papa died. I think I might want to say this, maybe for the sake of those watching, that there is this part of conversations like this that people need to understand. That when either of the parents or both of them miss the opportunity of the season of a child's formative years to be present in that child's life. You see, yes, there will be forgiveness. There might be forgiveness later in life. But the restoration of a relationship most times doesn't come. It never comes. Because you cannot make it happen mechanically. So the whole idea of shaming people into forcing such relationship, what it does is that it rather worsens cases. Yes. And unfortunately, because there is something in common with this session we're having and the last session we had, that someone will be missing the child's life, then the child probably will look forward to meeting the person, only to meet the person and be wondering, my God, what kind of person are you, and almost grateful that the fellow was never there. I was. You were grateful. I was very grateful. I would have been one, maybe an illiterate or I don't know, angry all the time, because my father was always angry. The few days we stayed, he was always strict. He had a wife. Yeah. Then. And she too, she was not comfortable. She ran away. I heard she ran away or something. She left. Yes. And she was young at that time, maybe late 20s or early 30s. She had to leave. Wow. And I remember one day when I was there, a young guy came to speak to me. Your face is new. Who are you? Yeah. If you see the warning the lady gave me, she said, if you don't want this guy to sleep in a cell this night. Oh, it could get him arrested. He had all the money. So if you don't want this guy, you better go back upstairs. Was he that kind towards you with the money? Sir, the kindness came after that 2011 visit, and he tried to send me pocket money. He paid my school fees in my 4th year and in my 5th year. He sent me pocket money sometimes. So, and I went for NYSC. Before I went for NYSC, that was when my husband started coming to marry me. He said he wanted to marry me. So I now broke the news that I wanted to get married, and that was the end. I begged. He stopped relating with you? Cut off. Why? I don't know. He didn't want me to get married. He said the person I was getting married to is not an Igbo man. I said, okay, meet this person first. He said, if you come here, if I don't arrest you and that man, call me a bastard. That was what he said. Now, knowing him a little, I knew he was going to fulfill it. Wow. So I didn't even bother. Now, in Igbo tradition, my bride price is supposed to be done in my father's place. You're from Imo? I'm from Abia.
Abia. Umuahia.
My father is from Anambra.
Okay.
So, but because I am, my mom is Umuahia. So I always stay with Umuahia. All my certificates, my documentations, everything. My grandfather made sure that he got those documentations done for me.
Wow.
So I always say I'm Umuahia, but biologically, I'm Anambra. So normally, the right thing is that my bride price and everything is supposed to be done. When I took my husband to the eldest brother, because all his siblings are in Ibadan.
Wow.
Yes. So when I took him to the eldest brother to say, this person wants to marry me and all that, he said he cannot get involved though. He said he cannot get involved though. He called my father. My father, I just heard him screaming. Shouted and shouted and shouted and shouted. He said his hands are up. Now my father is alive.
So how did you pass through that phase?
I went back home to my home, Umuahia.
Yes.
And I spoke to an uncle that somebody wants to marry me, Alpha. He said, have you informed your father? He said, yes. What did he say? I said, this is what he said. You're sure he's not interested? I dialed my father's number in front of him. He didn't pick up.
Hey.
I said, this is how it has been. He doesn't pick my calls. I showed him the messages that, look, this is the messages I've been sending to beg him to at least let us come and see you.
Wow.
Get to know this person first. He refused. He said, we raised you. I grew up in the village, like Papa's house in the village. They all saw me growing up. They all, they say it takes a village to raise a child. They all raised me practically. They loved me. There was nobody ever really asked about my father in my village or never pointed hands to say her father or no her father or she's not actually from here. There was no segregation. There was all acceptance from my mother's place.
Wow.
So, yes, in Umuahia. Nobody, till today, nobody remembers that. My mother was actually married.
Wow.
So, immediately, that same day, he said, people should bring 1,000. Let's go and bring the list. This and this is what you're supposed to bring so that they can give you the list. And we took the list. And everything was done in my mom's place. I had traditional marriage in my mom's place.
Wow.
All the list, all the payments.
He was alive when you were getting married. Did he come?
So he's like, you're not understanding what I'm saying.
I just wanted to ask that for the sake of those.
He's not interested.
After you got married, did he ever bless the marriage?